Dr. Todd Lee with mindandmuscle.com. 2012 IFBB North American Lightweight Bodybuilding Champion, and I'm a medical doctor. I'm here today to talk to you about on-cycle therapy, or OCT. Now, a lot of people have heard of post-cycle therapy. This is different. This is on-cycle. This is something you take while you're on your prohormones or anabolic steroids to prevent the side effects that you would normally use PCT to correct. So, a lot of people would say the best offense is a good defense. Well, the best form of PCT is OCT. Now, a lot of times people will say you don't want to use anti-estrogens on cycle because estrogen helps you get your gains. That may be true to some extent because estrogen does have a receptor on the muscle tissue that causes IGF-1 upregulation and satellite cell migration. Also, other people say you don't want to be using on-cycle therapy to prevent side effects when you're on a cutting cycle because it's dry, and the dry has an aromatase effect built in with the DHT molecule, so you wouldn't need anything to prevent estrogen accumulation because nothing you're taking is wet in the first place. So the theory is then that you need the estrogen to bulk, and shutdown is inevitable. That while you're cutting, there shouldn't be any estrogen, so there really shouldn't be much shutdown. But what if you were able to increase the size of your testes and increase the amount of testosterone natural production while on your cycle? The way to do that is with DAA. Now, if you saw the DAA article, I'm just going to refresh your memory. DAA binds to the pituitary, causing a release in LH that then causes the testes to produce testosterone. DAA also binds to the testes, producing testosterone. That's great. So it's a great natural test booster. Now, what happens if you're taking, normally testosterone is converted from aromatase into estrogen. Estrogen then binds to the pituitary, which then shuts off luteinizing hormone and testosterone production. So that's not good. What if you took the DAA while you're taking test? Then what happens is you're injecting testosterone or you're taking an oral prohormone like 4-AD, and it turns into test. And the test then would eventually get converted to estrogen, which would then inhibit the release through the pituitary of luteinizing hormone, thus shrinking the testicles, not because they're not producing as much testosterone. If you take the DAA alongside it, DAA normally would swell them. This process shrinks them so they balance out. So you'd be able to keep the same size testes, you'd be able to keep the same natural testosterone production while you're still administering an exogenous or extra from your body form of testosterone like a prohormone or an anabolic steroid or an androgenic steroid. Now, another way of doing OCT in conjunction with this would be taking an AI or a SERM. So an aromatase inhibitor would inhibit aromatase and stop your wet testosterone or your natural testosterone from converting to estrogen. That would stop it from inhibiting the release of LH. Same thing with a SERM. If you took a selective estrogen receptor modulator, you'd be able to block the estrogen receptors on the pituitary. So even if there was circulating estrogen, you would be able to prevent that from inhibiting the LH release. Now, if you read the article 3-Prong Assault on post-CT, it's very similar in the same mechanism, that the way to really attack this issue and get the most amount of natural test production possible is to use DAA to boost the testes to make them as large as possible, producing as much testosterone as possible. Use an AI to inhibit aromatase, and you use a SERM to inhibit estrogen binding to the pituitary. So you've got all of this extra test being produced, and none of the mechanisms that break test down into estrogen, so there's no shutoff. So there's both the natural and the DAA's mechanisms of increasing test. Of course, if you were adding in prohormone like 4-AD to that, you'd have a threefold way of boosting testosterone release. And to wrap that up, the way to get this all in one, a SERM and an AI, would be Form-XT by LG Sciences, and Mind and Muscle carries its own line of DAA. So on the Mind and Muscle store, you can get either or both of those. This is Todd Lee M.D. with mindandmuscle.com. Have a great day.